Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, and I want to talk about an incredible change that Vivek Ramaswamy could bring us, which is to solve loneliness. All right, so let's jump into this. So first of all, there was a New York Times is truly an incredible media source. They don't get everything right, but often they'll talk about things in a very open and honest way, and they'll say the quiet part loud, and it is really fascinating. Like this is that's very useful language, saying the quiet part loud. And so for a long time, our so basically, they did a piece about a week ago, New York Times, on loneliness. Powerful piece, right? I'm going to link to the video. Link is below, and you'll be able to see this powerful piece on loneliness. And if you watch it several times, several people say the quiet part loud. And so we as a culture, we were like, hey, you can construct your life any way you want, and it's going to work out fine, right? And one of those ways that we were like, oh, it's no problem. You do what you want. It's going to work out great. Is kids, right? So like people are like, oh, I don't need kids, man. I'm just going to live my life, right? And in this video, multiple people are like, I chose to not have kids, and that was cool for 10 years, and then and now I'm bone achingly lonely. Like, this really swung around on me, and I am desperately lonely. And the what I thought was going to be independence turns out to be just bone aching loneliness. And and I have to say, like, I had this decision, and we all come to this decision, and I was like, as I was a young man, right? Like, and I was like, I could I was incredibly fortunate. I went to college, right? And I was like, there's a couple paths I could take in life. And I know some guys who took this path. They're like, no responsibility for me. Do whatever I want. Be with whoever I want. Don't take any responsibility for any of it. I'm not going to have any kids, right? And and people overall, and then other people are like, yeah, I'm going to take my time and invest it all into this, right? And the reality is, a lot of people are just like, no, independence forever. I don't need kids, right? And what really amazed me with the New York Times is, like, we as a culture had like, we're like, if that turns out to be bone achingly, if that turns out that it makes you bone achingly lonely, you need to keep that to yourself, because we've been telling everybody for a long time that you don't need kids to have a full and robust life. But they were like, y'all need to recognize, if you don't, like, to me, there were like a lot of people in this video who were like, I chose not to have kids, and now I am bone achingly sad. And I was just shocked that the New York Times would let people speak that quiet part loud. Like, that was astounding, because I thought as a culture we were like, independence is so important. Nobody can speak the ills of it, right? Like, it's not even allowed, right? And so this was really shocking, right? So what really brought it forward for me is, like, I think there are people who really got jammed up, right? Like, we were like, oh, hey, any type of construct you want to create is going to work out great, right? Like, and then people are like, well, wait a second, there are structures, and when I built my own structure, it fell apart, right? And so now we are like, we've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. We're like, oh, pick whatever you want, do whatever you want, ignore all the structures, right? And then people are coming back and going, oh man, this is a mess. Like, there was a reason those structures were there, right? And so right here in this one, so first of all, before we go a step further, I want to say thank you to the New York Times for saying the quiet part loud, and allowing people to actually say, hey, if you ignore structures that have been in place for millennia, right, and you ignore people who are like, hey, you should structure your life this way, because otherwise you're going to end up bone achingly sad and lonely, right? Like, then you there are reasons people bring this wisdom, right? Like, and so I just really want to say thank you to the New York Times for having the courage to say, you can ignore whatever structure you want. That absolutely doesn't mean that's going to work out in the end for you or anyone else, right? Like, you can paint yourself independent all you want. Doesn't mean it's going to work, right? Like, and I really appreciated their saying the quiet part loud and allowing people to actually express that, hey, I chose this modern path and it is horrible, right? Like, and so thank you, New York Times, for doing that. I think that's a really valuable cultural moment. So Vivek Ramaswamy, okay, this incredibly kind, tolerant, charismatic, intelligent, confident leader comes forward, right? And why am I telling you that? Well, is President Joseph Biden kind and tolerant? I actually think he is. I don't think President Biden meant anyone harm, right? Is he charismatic? No, because his face looks like a skull, and every time he smiles, like now, it just looks ghoulish, right? And the reason why is his skin is paper thin because he's 80 years old, right? And 80-year-old skin was not meant to be on 4K, or like it's at 50 inches, right? He deserves and belongs in an assisted living home, like in an assisted living facility. He does not belong in the Oval Office. This is becoming cruel, right? Is he confident? No. It's looks like his son's going up on gun charges. No, he's not confident, right? He's got major problems, right? That 80-year-old men should not have to walk out in the public square, right? Is he intelligent? No, like not anymore. He can't finish sentences, right? Like, President Donald Trump, right? Kind and tolerant. That's my response. Okay, so Vivek Ramaswamy comes in here, right? And we get this situation where we're like, oh my gosh, the world could change, right? So how would we change the world with Vivek Ramaswamy? So we have this terrible, the New York Times has told us flat out, we literally have millions of Americans who are bone achingly lonely, like just sad face all the time, bone aching loneliness, right? Like so bad that the ramifications are horrific, right? So how could Vivek fix this? Well, the biggest thing I think is he could literally fix it by saying, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something for lonely people, right? So what would he do? Well, he could do something that I think would be absolutely transformative for America and say, we're going to make the BALL program, the Bone Aching Loneliness Program. All you have to do is identify yourself as someone who is bone achingly lonely to a government agent. And the first thing they're going to do is they're like, okay, you chose not to have children. Would you like one? Right. And so first of all, you're first in line on adoption. Right. You get, the 3-month to 3-year-olds, the premium crop, right? Like, take your pick. Right. And then also a $25,000 or like, let's say that you're bone achingly lonely, but you don't want to have kids because you don't think you're actually going to be good as a parent because you should have started that 10, 15 years ago. A $25,000 tax credit. And if you don't, so whatever your taxes are, cut 25 grand off of that. And now you have more to actually make your life more rich and fulfilling, both literally and figuratively rich and fulfilling. And if you don't pay $25,000 in tax, like if you only pay $3,000 in tax based on your income, you're going to get $22,000 check straight from the government, right? And you're like, whoa, Scott, this is apples, bananas. Yes, right? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, right? We can reshape the world in ways that are helpful and kind and tolerant and good on the Republican side, right? And you're like, wait a second, Scott, there's going to be a lot of problems with the plan. Yes, there's going to be a lot of problems with the plan, but it doesn't matter, right? And the reason why is we're going to have Vivek Ramaswamy. The dude can actually sit down and think about problems, write information on a piece of paper, and then execute it because he's 38 years old and not an 80-year-old person who doesn't bring plans but needs a blanket brought, right? He brings plans. He doesn't ask for a blanket, right? Like, this is what a real, actual president could do. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, right? Batman said it and he meant it and it was correct, right? Let's do the apples, bananas plans and let's use the monster truck of potential that is American awesomeness to ride over the problems that are created. right? And you're going to be like, oh, that's going to be a rocky road. Yes, it's going to be a rocky road. Bump, 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 right? And Vivek is going to drive the monster truck over the problems that this would cause, right? And there will be rocky. There will be people are going to try to fraud it. People are going to try to do all kinds of stuff, right? But we're going to fail on something that's good, rather than doing what President Biden's been doing for 4 years, talking about dreams and unicorn tears and doing nothing. Talking a good game and accomplishing nothing while the American dream burns, right? Vivek Ramaswamy can not only restore the American dream by literally putting the Republican playbook in hand, but he can go further than that and can literally solve American loneliness. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.